What's up, world? Just gonna make a quick video here about the GOT6 changes and that happened on the PTR, both the old update and the new update to GOT6. Just gonna talk about the good and the bad with the set, and more so how the set really feels. I think that's kind of a major talking point that I've seen reading on social media and also the forums and stuff. So I'm gonna be focusing on that for the most part, but let's start with speeds though. So for speeds, the set feels better. It's definitely a little better than it is on live in terms of clearing potential for speed farming. You can do it with uh, basically any of the arrows. Really, you can choose Shadow Shot, Spray of Teeth, or Devouring Arrow for your clears, or you can even do Bolas if you want to drop down a couple of GRs for those particular speeds. So in terms of like lower content, in that sense, in T16, it definitely does feel better, and it's good for that. And while we're talking about feeling good in that sense, I'm gonna talk about the pros too as well while I'm on that topic. So the one of the good things about the Pierce cap, or having the Pierce cap the way it is currently, is that it provides some sort of consistency for the build. Beforehand, when the happening was that when we had uncapped pierces and on live, we had extremes. We either had the set was really good, like really good, when a lot of things were like packed up tight and then like a lot of density, or it was really bad when we had only like low to mid density, and stuff just wouldn't die. So we didn't really have any like in between. It was either really good or really bad, or just that kind of thing. So with the Pierce cap, you kind of bridge the gap between the two significantly in this sense, so that now your clears kind of feel pretty consistent. It's less fishy, there's less RNG per se, mostly less RNG. I'll put it that way. And so overall, it feels better in terms of a consistency standpoint in that case. So I like that. I do like that. The bad is when you're starting to ramp up on the higher GRs and you're having to deal with density. So density has been kind of a major concern for me when it comes to the set in terms of higher GRs, because the three-piece or the three Pierce cap itself causes quite a few problems when you're trying to push on the best maps like Battlefield or Festering Woods, and things like that, because most builds in the game, you really want a lot of density to be able to make a lot of progress, to be able to spawn pylons, etc. Well, with this particular build, because the pierces oftentimes when you have a lot of density around doesn't reach where you want them to reach, or them reaching in random parts of the density, it's kind of hard to like make progress quickly or immediately, because you have no idea where the arrow is going to pierce, and you don't have as much opportunity for the arrow to deal damage because the pierce cap is so low. So it starts to really feel bad in density, because you got all this trash, or with the lease around, and you just really feel like you're not doing much because of this particular pierce cap, and that can feel pretty awful. But where it starts to become somewhat detrimental is that when you get a map like Battlefields or Festering Woods, you have to do something what I would call checkpoint progress. And checkpoint progress is basically when you have a group of mobs in the area, and that you kind of need to kill those mobs like on the next COE cycle or whatever you're running, because you need to make progress before you reveal pylon spots or pylon spawn points. So with the old GOT6, we can do that, right? We can just gather up a couple of things towards the entrance or whatever, and we can kind of like kill a couple of things, and hope to make enough progress to spawn a pylon at a spot that we know that it can spawn. Well, with this build, we kind of can't do that, so we're kind of stuck just kind of dragging literally everything, whittling them down slowly but surely. But as we're pulling things around, we're revealing pylon spots through the map, but we haven't made enough progress yet, because we weren't able to really kill anything on the spot, and therefore we lose out on pylons. And when you're pushing high GRs, that's a big no-no because you need pylons, specifically conduit and power and shield. If you're using squirts, like you need those pylons for progression. So if you are revealing those pylon spots and you don't get a pylon, you essentially, in some cases, have just ruined your rift, right? So, however, there's no way really around that with this particular build. You can't force checkpoint progress. The build's best, some of the build's best traits is when it's isolation. So when you're just around just a blue pack or a yellow elite, it's really good. I mean, phenomenally good. Like Rift Guardians are a lot easier to kill now. Isolated elites are a lot easier to kill. So you want to try to get into those situations, as much as possible. But in dense rifts, you kind of can't do that, and you don't have the power to create checkpoint progress to even force isolated situations. So that makes it hard to take advantage of what the build is actually good at doing right now, currently. And you can't really just move around the rift and be like, hey, I'm just going to skip all this density and find ISO situations. It's not going to work that way because you're going to poke stuff on the way and they're going to follow you because you didn't kill them. And then now you're back to square one because you have to find some way to deal with them or just leave the rift and start over again. And that can be, pretty frustrating, on his own. So what this build kind of really feels like, or what it reminds me of, is kind of like Impale, almost like a random Impale build, because Impale has a pretty hard wall, like a hard cap wall, to where no matter how good you are or whatever, you're gonna reach that wall really quickly, and there's not much you can do about it. The difference here is that with Impale, I can at least target my knives to hit where I want them to hit, the majority of the time. Whereas with God 6, I don't have that luxury. So even if I want to try to get ISO situations, or I just want to try to kill just one little particular area and move on, I kind of can't do that because past the first arrow, I have no control of what happens to the arrow afterwards. So that kind of randomness, in that sense, creates a wall that happens real quick versus doing like speeds or lower GRs. For me, for instance, I was keying in 130s as my testing GR, and I was able to clear each 130 with Devouring Arrow, Shadow Shot, Spray of Teeth, and Bola, on basically the first try. It was rough, it wasn't like it was super easy, but I was able to do it on the first try, and it was like, okay, this feels kind of okay. Bumped it up 3 GRs, and all of a sudden I couldn't do Bola, and that's a pretty quick wall to reach. And I feel like players who are feel like they're doing okay and then bump it up 1 or 2 GRs and hit the wall pretty quickly, that can feel really frustrating for a Demon Hunter player, because they may be looking at other classes who might be clearing still a little bit higher. It just feels really bad when no matter how good you are, you can't change the scenario that's happening, and you can't put your build in an optimal scenario because you have no control over it, because you have no control over the arrows. So that was kind of one of the saving graces of God 6 on live servers, was because of the fact that the arrows had the chance, if you can gather enough density, the arrows had enough chance to be able to pierce multiple times, like a lot, giving you the opportunity to be able to get enough arrows and enough area damage to be able to clear specific areas of the map while you have everything pulled. So we don't have that luxury, anymore of doing so. I don't really know how I really feel about that in terms of the high GRs. I think I do think that the set itself, or the build itself, needs a couple of, just a couple of GR bump in terms of where it stands right now, because we are hard cap. I'd be surprised to see more than a 134, 135 on PTR at around 5k Paragon, no matter how much fishing that you are going to do, just because you can't create better scenarios for yourself like you could with other builds, or even the previous version of God 6. So if you just buff the 6-piece bonus, we'll do a couple of GRs higher, obviously, but we'll still run into the same issue of how the set feels in the higher GRs. So don't know if that's the correct solution. Then you have the solution of being able to just up the pierce count. Just, a couple of pierces, maybe from 3 to 4, 3 to 5. So we can kind of get a little bit of that, or be able to deal with density just a little bit better, I guess, in that sense. But of course, doing it that way means that you have the other arrows as well as bolas kind of, being pushed further and further behind when they're, not too far behind or almost neck and neck in some cases to the current devouring arrow right now. So I don't have the perfect solution, but I just know that, or I really do feel that it still needs just a little bit more oomph in this current iteration. And then I think it'll be kind of okay. But overall, even though I have, what seems like a lot of negative things to say about the set itself, I do think overall that the buff that Blizzard has applied on the PTR on the second iteration patch is a step in the right direction. I feel like it helps. It definitely helps in terms of how the build feels. I just think it's different, and it's different in a way that we don't have control over, and then that makes it feel bad. That makes it feel awful, and a lot of scenarios. And so I can definitely understand how players feel when they voice their opinions on, man, this definitely feels awful in density and stuff like that. And yeah, and they're right. I feel like they're right. And I kind of feel the same way. Mostly it is pretty bad in density. So I'm kind of in agreement on that. So, but anyways, this is just my couple of things I've noticed. This is just my opinion, obviously. So hope you guys enjoy watching. If you have any comments or anything you want to share, please comment below in the comment section. I'm going to also link a couple of the threads, like Iria's threads and DMKT threads. They have some pretty interesting and nice solutions to further make the set feel better, or further buff the set a little bit. I still think it's still behind quite a few of the other classes, with the exception of Witch Doctor, for certain. Please check that out. Check out my Twitch channel too as well. And you guys have a great night. Thanks for watching.